So our next panel continues a little bit on the theme of regulation, and we'll talk about insurance operations and all the nitty-gritty details that are potentially not known to people around the room. And to lead the discussion and to moderate it today, I would like to invite Heidi Richards, who is an ex-regulator herself, so it's a very interesting choice for you to lead the operations discussion. And she is currently working with multiple companies and insurers to help them in their journey on regulatory compliance and risk. Thanks, Heidi.
Okay, can people hear me? Why don't I invite our panelists to come and have a seat? I think there's a rule at this conference. We need to have at least one American on every panel, so I'm just trying to keep that up. So I hope how are people feeling after lunch? Everybody ready to go? Yeah? Great. Well, on this panel, we're going to talk about operations, everything from tech procurement to compliance. As Tetiana said, I am an ex-regulator. If you're struggling with compliance issues, you may have me to blame, but hopefully we won't get into that in too much detail today. But I'm always happy to take questions about regulatory issues, compliance issues. So on our panel today we have Ben Coe from AgGuard, Katrin Stoecker, sorry I'm going the wrong way, Katrin Stoecker from Zurich, and in the middle, Dominique Vagi from Hutch. And they're a group of really experienced industry insiders. They're also quite a diverse group of companies. So I thought we would just start out by asking each of the panelists to give us a bit of an overview of actually what is your business and what is your role in the operation of that business. And maybe tell us one thing that you have in common with your other panelist companies and maybe one thing that where you're different. So maybe we'll just, which way? Should we start with Ben next to me?
Hi everyone. So I'm from AgGuard. AgGuard's an agricultural insurance underwriting agency. It started out as a brokerage about 12 years ago. I came on board about 2018 with Alex, my business partner, and basically transformed the brokerage into an underwriting agency. Since then, we've done a couple things. We started out dealing with brokers, but then in 2020, an opportunity came up with Elders Insurance. So our current business, the core business at least, is a partnership with Elders Insurance where we underwrite their crop insurance offering. We do some other products on the side. We have a direct-to-consumer hobby farm insurance offering and a bunch of other parametric insurance offerings. Our primary business is in Australia, but we've just recently expanded out to New Zealand as well. So we went live with a flood parametric product towards the end of last year, and that's sort of just starting to kick off at the moment. In terms of similarities, I'm going to say that we're all aligned in trying to return an underwriting result. Good answer. And then differences, I'd say kind of just being an agricultural insurance, it's a really diverse industry. Lots of things that like the risks underlying are quite heterogeneous. It is a little bit backwards in some aspects, but there's a lot of progressive farmers out there that are looking for new things. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Maybe
So first, checking because it was off when I sat down. So my name is Dominique and I'm the Chief Underwriting Officer and Chief Operating Officer at Hutch Underwriting. So we are a fully digital underwriting agency, and we started about 3 years ago now. Our product suite spans across retail and commercial products. So in that way, I'm more similar to Katrin's world. Katrin's world. Sorry, Katrin. I've only known you for like 10 years. And we have products like Strata, PI construction, and then a whole new suite of products coming out this year. I'd say that one of the other ways that we are quite different again to Katrin's world is that we're very, very fast moving and constantly, when you're small and you can do all the new things every day, and with being a small business where all the decisions are made just within a small team, it's much easier to just get things done at a really fast pace. There are obviously inherent risks with doing that also. So in terms of what we're doing, as I said, we've got lots of products launching, and the business structure, we are very similar to AgGuard in terms of how we're set up as an underwriting agency, and we have capacity across lots of different geographies as well.
Great. Katrin?
Yes, hi, I'm Katrin Stoecker. I'm a product owner at Zurich. And yes, so Zurich, I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a city, but it's also a very large insurance organization, global organization, based in Zurich, of course, and then here in Australia. So with the large global organization, you have some advantages and lots of tools and lots of knowledge that can be shared across. And I think that's also one key element that possibly makes us a little bit different, because I have a whole shop within the shop that I can just go and grab items from. I have teams for everything. So like I can be very specialist focused, whereas Dominique and Ben both need to wear 153 hats all at once, and we have probably 153 different teams to do those specific jobs. So that makes it exciting, but equally a little bit more challenging when you want to launch new products. And I think you mentioned, Dominique, like basically large insurers have the reputation of being a little bit slower than the nimble agencies. So.
Right. So more resources, but maybe more process and bureaucracy to get through. Yeah. I should have said at the beginning, we do have the Slido question functionality. I just don't have the actual, okay, somebody's got the iPad. So please open up the Slido, and if you have questions for the panelists, I will try to ask any that are, sensible. So, okay, great, excellent. So I'd also wanted to ask each of the panelists about, like this is an InsurTech conference, so maybe you could tell us a bit about where is your business investing the most in technology, like if maybe say over the last 2 to 3 years, where have you invested the most in technology, and what do you have coming up in terms of how that's affecting your operations? So maybe we'll start with Dominique.
Sure. So as I said, we only started 3 years ago, so all of our investment has been in the last 3 years. And we are completely digital business, so we've had a lot of tech investment. The most significant is in API-enabled systems to allow us to integrate with broker systems. The whole intention there is to improve the experience for all the stakeholders in the insurance chain. So from the insured, the broker, ourselves, and then our capacity providers, we're using and leveraging technology to improve that whole ecosystem there. And I think in particular, as I say, that biggest investment we've made is in that integration to, and the systems that allow us to integrate into the broker platforms. And there we're reducing double keying and all the potential for human error, and we're just streamlining the process significantly. So that's our major investment.
Great. Maybe Katrin next?
Yeah, sure. So Zurich has got this goal, or the Northern Star, to be Australia's leading digital insurer. And so that obviously has to come with investment, and that has to come with investment in the technology space. So the teams are actively working on the APIs, so to make that more available for us internally, but also externally, so that you have the connectivity to be more modular and not have one big system that has to cater for everything. So that's one key investment. I think the other key investment, and there's probably another session here today on this, is AI. So AI really is focused more around the process efficiencies and the uplift in that particular space, that you have more reliable kind of information quickly at your fingertips. And I think we had some sessions earlier today on the compliance part, where that's a pretty good use case, where you have lots of rules and guidelines, and you have to find your way through that. So that's probably a very good use case where you can apply AI effectively. And then another investment is obviously in the people. Like whilst technology is the topic today, but We are heavily encouraged to learn as well, customer CX mastery, for example, or digital mastery. So we have lots of programs. So they're really trying to encourage us to be curious and have this mindset of we want to change and we want to be fast, we want to be nimble, we want to make the customer journey an exciting journey. So that's another piece of investment. And for us in GI, I should have said that at the beginning, like we have in Australia, we have life insurance as well as general insurance, and I work in the general insurance space. So in the general insurance space, we are revisiting the entire IT landscape right now as well, which is a huge investment. But we just need to prepare ourselves for the future.
Right. I don't think we have AI on this agenda, but I was really impressed with the real-time transcript until it started glitching, like 10 minutes. I don't know if people saw it glitching. That's AI risk for you. So finally, Ben, you could tell us a bit about technology and where you're investing in the business.
There's probably another little difference between our business and everyone else is that we've invested a lot more in really niche agricultural solutions. Given that the crop insurance book for us is kind of our core business, it's a lot of time and effort trying to understand what's happening on farm. So we've invested a lot in trying to understanding where our risks are located, a lot of development into a geospatial capability, and then overlaying and inputting data to basically deliver insights on how crops are performing and how that might influence a growing season, and then premium claims output as well after that. And then from there, whether we can leverage that for other innovative products like the parametric offerings that I just mentioned just then.
Great. I thought next I would throw one to Dominique on, like if you think about the challenges in implementing a new technology or taking on a new vendor, can you tell us about maybe a success story or something that's gone well in that area for you?
Sure. Every success always starts with challenges. We identified some challenges for the business with respect to how we're going to manage our finance operations in particular. Going out and looking for tech partners and what they could offer us and how we could integrate that into our existing ecosystem was something that we took an active approach to. We weren't passively looking for a partner. It was really around the long term of how we were going to make all of our systems work together to give the maximum benefit. So what we've ended up doing is integrating 4 different systems, and it's provided a fully automated finance and receivables process. So we've got our bank accounts, our CRM, our accounting and policy documentation administration services are all linked, and that's really that ability to identify how the technologies can benefit each other, and where the sum of the whole really is greater than the parts. That's what's been critical to Hutch's success in this area. So our finance module in particular has been incredibly successful at bringing lots of different technologies together to produce something very special.
And what are there particular factors that you think help that be a success?
I think it's critical to identify if something's not working. So sometimes you start going down a path and you might think that a technology is going to provide something for you, but not getting stuck into the sunk costs mindset. So being able to make a change, I think, is really important. And sometimes you have this idea of how your world's going to work, and then things aren't going quite to plan. Do you double down, or do you look at then what are the alternatives and could you do something better? Really understanding the limitations and the opportunities of the tech systems that you're working with is really important. If you understand how this area over here, you might not use this module of a piece of tech, but understanding what it can do, then you're talking to another tech company 3 weeks later and you think, well, actually, there's some link up there and I can use that to develop this for my business. I think that's really what was critical in that.
Great, okay. Now, on the flip side...
So I'll add one point to that, though. Then, because if you have got those integrations with lots of different systems, then that maintenance, maintaining the integrations and the testing across lots of different systems, that can then become really costly and challenging as well. So if anyone's got awesome solutions for that, that's something that is always beneficial.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Even for a smaller organization, the number of systems and databases and things you have to integrate into is really critical. And anyone, I guess, trying to sell you a piece of software has got to understand how that works. So I was going to ask Ben for I don't want to say not a failure scenario, but like maybe a project where you were trying to implement something new and it maybe didn't go so well, and why?
Yeah, I've got a couple of stories. Just a really short one is that we were working with a tech startup a while ago, and it was a well-funded tech startup, but unfortunately the well-funded tech startup had a pretty big change, and it was no longer well-funded. So we invested quite a bit of time and effort in trying to get something up with them. They've made it through, but it was a bit scary at one point in terms of whether we would actually be able to continue with them, because it was a pretty attractive product they had. Another one that we were working with was that we were trying to implement a CRM. We spent quite a bit of time. It was a pretty hard sell from the company that was doing the configuration work. And it was quite a journey. They fundamentally didn't really understand our business and our needs. They kept talking about all the features that the platform offered, but never really had a good look at kind of what we actually needed as a business. And so there was a big mismatch between the features and also the benefits that we were supposed to see. Ultimately, interestingly, the downfall for that particular project was that we worked out that they had no way to ingest customer information from our system, which is fundamental to a CRM, and it took about 3 months to work that out, so that was really frustrating.
And I think there was an example you told me, Ben, where you ended up reverting to a spreadsheet, and personally I love Excel. Like I'm an Excel junkie, and as an ex-regulator I probably shouldn't admit that, but Excel's an amazing piece of technology that has really stood the test of time. It's kind of unbelievable. So Katrin, you're Zurich, large global household name, insurer. You have a lot of internal stakeholders to navigate. Can you tell us a bit about who you need to deal with to get like a new piece of tech or a new tool implemented in your business?
Sure, happy to. I might do a use case, basically. You would most likely be aware of the partnership that Zurich recently entered with Tesla, which is the new product, Insure My Tesla. And so brand new product, brand new idea, brand new partnership, so you need to mobilize that. And I just counted last night, and I think it was 20 plus internal stakeholders. Again, I would have just talked to Dominique or Ben, and they would have worn all the hats. But so we've got 20 internal stakeholders. It starts obviously with a leadership team, with a board, to get the idea through. We have the underwriting teams, product. We have what else have we got? We have finance. We have the actuaries, reserving actuaries. So they're all individual teams. And that's just to get the idea up and running, so that we're not even at the development part yet. So then you have to have business analysts, you have to have customer CX experts and UX experts. You do the design, you have your business analysts, you have your developers, you have your test team. I'm sure I've forgotten about 15 of them, but anyway, so you get the gist. There are a lot of internal stakeholders. So what is really important, and then obviously you have the partner as well, Tesla, who is a key partnership, and then a vendor as well thrown into the mix. So there are a lot of stakeholders that need to be updated and aligned, and we all know communication is absolutely key. So the second that you think you know something, somebody else tells a different story, and all of a sudden this whole project can go the wrong way. With Tesla, believe it or not, an insurance company like Zurich, who Dominique also explained, we are probably a bit slower. From end to end, from start to finish, to develop this solution took 5.5 months. And to me, that's super impressive. Like, I'm so proud to be part of like an organization that can pivot from the sleeping giant to be an agile, nimble kind of insurance company, to go like, we want this, we all get together and we're gonna make it happen. And so for me, it's beautiful to see, and that's also part of the transformation that has been invested in. So we're more agile, have agile teams. So in other words, the enterprise is basically, we have enterprise visibility. If we believe in this, then we absolutely support it. Then the resources are coming from all areas. Doesn't matter if it's just GI or of coming from live. We make it happen. And so yeah, it's a big piece of navigation, but it's beautiful when it comes together like this. And the beautiful thing for this particular product as well, because it was so linked to the customer, and I heard earlier in the upstairs session, feedback loops of 18 months, is not acceptable, of course not. And we, like with Tesla being also very close to their customer base, they have feedback loops for literally from getting the feedback to bringing this new feature in took about 2 weeks, like one sprint. We heard it, we saw it on the chat, we got all the thumbs up from lots of users, like this is a feature that they would really like, and we made it happen. And that's not something that I guess any of us would have thought of when you hear Zurich, right? And so I think it's a very beautiful case study.
Great, I love that. So we need to talk about compliance, of course, and all of you deal with different amounts of regulatory compliance, and certainly the previous panel, I think I heard that Australia is among the most heavily regulated countries in the world for insurance. I'm not sure if I'm happy about that or not, but it is what it is. So I don't know if that's me or the mic, whether I so just I might ask maybe hopefully that's a bit better. Yes, it is better. So we've got some new regulations coming in. Anyone working in the insurance industry is either they're a regulated insurer. When I say regulated, I mean APRA regulated, because I'm kind of biased. So that would include Zurich. But even if you're not a regulated insurer, you're getting lots of questions from insurers that you work with. So maybe I'll ask Ben, like what sort of questions are you getting now from insurers that you work with? Has that changed? And how do you deal with those kind of compliance expectations?
Yeah, it has definitely changed. I think it's really ramped up in the last sort of 12 months or so. We've noticed just a lot more questions coming through, a lot more that we have to respond on. And I think what I've seen in the last 6 months in particular is more like making sure that it's actually embedded within the business. It's not necessarily, here's a policy, tick the box. It's, are you actually doing it? Are you demonstrating that you're doing these sort of things? So yeah, big change from that perspective. Yeah.
I'd say that, agree, it's just become much more frequent and in-depth, the questions that were being asked. But also for us, we've got capacity providers over in the UK, and they've got different sets of regulations coming through as well. On the plus side, they seem to be somewhat aligned, so hopefully somewhere around the world they've been talking to each other about what looks sensible, and they're pulling in the same direction. But what can be quite frustrating is that you get one question from somebody this month, and then 2 months later you get this slightly different question that you need to respond to in a slightly different way, and that can get a little bit tedious.
So what should a vendor who's maybe trying to convince you to go with their product, from a compliance perspective, what do they need to do? Maybe I'll throw that to any of you.
Yeah, like obviously Zurich is also heavily compliance focused. Look, any vendor who's ahead of the curve and is already thinking about that and is used to the due diligence process, because we have to go through it. The better equipped you are, the better it is. If you have already some ISO qualifications or qualifications, then that's a plus. Anything that is helping on that journey, think forward, then rather than trying to catch up and go like, oh, what is a question set going to look like? What do I have to prepare for? You can ask for those questions early and be prepared. I guess that would be my advice.
Yeah, from our side, ISO certification is just an absolute must to engage with somebody. SOC 2 compliance as well. And as Katrin said, that it's almost like a willingness to engage. We're not asking you guys these questions to ruin your day. There's a reason we're getting a lot of pressure to be able to demonstrate, how we're managing all of these risks, and it does then go down to our provider level. So we need you to be willing to engage and help us to answer these questions, and sometimes they're quite detailed, but it is for us to get to the end point. And as Ben said before, it's not just ticking the box, we've got to demonstrate that we're actually doing it. So any help that we get in completing that process, that's going to help us to onboard vendors as well.
Yeah, great. I think we have till 3:15, is that right? Yeah. Yep. Now, I don't have any questions coming through yet, so if you do have questions you'd like to ask the panelists, please pop them into the Slido. Ben, is there anything you want to add on the compliance front?
No, I agree with everything they've said. The only other thing for me is just be prepared for change, because we've just seen so much of it. Like, you're going to come along for the journey as well. Even outside of, I was just thinking back to our loss adjusters. About 3 months ago, we got requests for following up on all sorts of things with our loss adjusters, so we had to put them through a lot as well. And it was in great timing, because we basically dropped them on like almost Christmas Eve, I think. So it was a nice Christmas present to get this compliance request from us. But yeah, it's just unfortunate at that time.
Actually, this is maybe a left field question from me. What can regulators do to help you get through some of the compliance challenges? Do you have any advice?
I'll go. I think that when these new rules or requirements, regulations are coming through, and particularly with respect to reporting, having better guidance and frameworks for how to complete and how to comply would be really helpful. So yes, please, regulators, if you're going to enforce this stuff, help us to do it right the first time and with the least pain, bearing in mind that we've got to go through all then our providers as well.
And I might just add to that, quite often the timeline stands, this is the go live date for this new regulation, but it's not really finalized because the negotiations are still happening with various parties, of course, and so we have a rough idea of what's coming our way, but you can't necessarily build too well on rough ideas. It's better to build on the end product. So if you give us a bit more lead time, from now until the end, that's appreciated as well. But fully support that there's some requirements that have to come through to make us all feel safer.
Yeah, I think with CPS 230, I think there was a time frame, and then there was a bit of industry feedback, and then there was another time frame. So that, of course, that can happen. But yes, I certainly remember lots of feedback about give us more time. Great. I think we're almost at the time for summing up. Still looking for questions, none coming through. One other issue we've talked about a bit before, but the decision I think you've all looked at in terms of doing something in-house versus going with a vendor. Maybe each of you could talk a bit about the challenges in, go in-house versus outsourced.
I can probably start on this one because as a large organization, there's more of a pull in-house. So first of all, we have global tools, so tools that are being invented globally to serve lots of Zurich organizations around the globe. But so there has to be also a local decision. Most of the time, the global tools don't fully fit, and we have to add on and customize it to make it fit locally. But if there's a local investment that needs to be made, the decision is, build it yourself, or do we go with vendors? And usually, what we're trying to do, if it's adding proper value to the product or to the business, then we tend to go and build it ourselves. If it's like a commodity, let's move to cloud, then we are probably more likely to use a vendor for those items, AI, cloud, some elements that are not necessarily niche to our product offering.
And I think you mentioned before, an example of deciding to use Excel for something. Excel can do lots of things, that's fine, but there might be a piece of technology that looks particularly pretty and shiny. And I think then your discovery and scoping is really important to understand what you can really get from this product, and is it going to really fit with your business needs and where your business is going in the long-term direction. I think that's also really important in terms of the in-house or by external, because we certainly view our vendors as partners. So we work together with technology providers, and we see our success as their success, and that's really important. What the long term looks like together.
I think for us, obviously, there's a cost factor involved. If we can do it cheaper, then we'll definitely try that. Certainly for some of the parametric stuff that we've been piloting, we did look at building that out in our policy administration system, but Excel won out just because it was cheap. It's a pilot, and we're still learning how that product's going to work in the market. It sort of just got us up and running much faster and easier. The other thing I think we've sort of considered is kind of like, is it actually core to our business or not? And a good example is like, we actually used to do, I built this little thing to do sanctions checking ages ago. And it worked pretty well, but it was a little bit clunky. But I thought, well, look, it's not something I really want to maintain, so let's just outsource that. So we picked up a tech solution for that one instead. So that one actually cost slightly more, but it wasn't really core to our business. It's not something we really want to focus on. So it's just easy to outsource that one. But then another example is kind of like where we're going with all this ag data gathering and geospatial capability. That's pretty core to our business, especially with our relationship with elders, not only the elders insurance side of the business, but also the elders rural side of the business. Having that sort of connection there with that side of the market, it's pretty important. So if we can have some sort of core capability in that space to partner up with these ag businesses, it's a huge plus for us.
Great. Okay. Well, we're nearly at the end of time. I had another one of my compliance-related questions in, which is really just, are there any requirements that you've had to implement for compliance purposes that actually ended up helping your customers or helping you do your business? Hopefully the answer is not no.
Well, I think a lot of the compliance and regulation, it is there to protect the end user at the end of the day. So all of it should hopefully pull in that direction to improve things for the insured. And you can see it in things like timeframes for communication, handling complaints, managing your claims, all those sorts of things. Those are designed to help the consumer at the end of the day. And I do think that they work. And when you can have some technology helping you to manage those communications and those processes, those workflows, then that can reduce the feel of burden from the compliance.
I can only echo that, because especially around the compliance part, look, I've got a car, and I've got plenty of complaints around when I go to a mechanic, and I wish they would be more heavily regulated, because if I use the word complaint, nothing happens, or taxi, right? So if you've got something there, like, you get nowhere, whereas in insurance, if you use the word complaint, or if you use some kind of tone of voice that sounds like a complaint, woof, you have to respond within 24 hours, and might have to sort of feed it up the chain, depending if it's a real complaint or so. So I think that's really valuable. The other one I think is really valuable is also vulnerable customers. Because that's very personal, and to have that understanding and special training and special focus, I think it's hugely important.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we have AFCA, which I know regulated entities sort of love to hate AFCA, but when you look around the world, the same thing doesn't exist in a lot of countries. And if you think about yourself as a financial services consumer, the fact that there's actually a government-funded, or at least government sort of organized, objective entity that a consumer can take a complaint to, like, it's actually pretty amazing that we have that, and that it generally works pretty well. Maybe some wouldn't agree, but I think it's pretty amazing that we have AFCA. So I think we might sum up maybe I'll give the panel, like we've covered kind of a broad range of issues, maybe I'll give the panelists, you know, I don't know, 30 seconds to sum up at key themes. I'll give Ben the microphone so you can start.
Key themes. I think technology's it really underpins our business, and we do try and look for. I'm happy to basically take any call from any sort of vendor. Pretty much, I generally do, you know, have a genuine conversation with anyone that does call up, try and understand what they're trying to do and whether it's actually of any benefit to us. Obviously, there's a cost and efficiency benefit with the technology that we do look at, but also it underpins the product and services that we offer to the market as well. So if we can get that edge across any aspect, we'll go for it.
From my side, I think it's really just that message to view your insurance companies as partners. You know, it's not just another line on your profit sheet. It's an ongoing partnership and relationship, and making sure that you've got that engagement, working together. You know, if it's all about the initial sale and then you're nowhere to be seen, that's not a good user experience. And you know, we all trade on our reputations in the market, and having that ongoing long-term engagement is absolutely critical to a healthy partnership.
And I would like to add, like, continue to innovate, be curious all the time, because I think we need all this fresh blood and fresh ideas. And even if it doesn't work, I guess another thing is, you know, quite often you might be talking to the tech people, but the operations people, we are the ones with the problems usually. We know we're the closest to the problems. So try different angles and try to get in through different angles, because it really helps, because you're here to help solve the problem, and then we can help solve the problem together, which is, you know, going to be fun.
Great. Okay, I think we'll wrap up there. So thank you to our panelists.
Thank you so much. I hope you were taking the notes, because on InsurTech survey, proximity and getting to the customer is problem number one. So I hope we've helped a little bit with the discussion and the insights.